Barker means the Darling River, and Inji means belonging to it. So when I say Barkinji, it means I belong to the Darling River, and it was Governor Darling who named the river. We didn't, us Barkinji people didn't. But I'd like to thank Uncle Marabindi for that welcome. It was very moving to me as a Barkinji person to visit someone's country. We're a long way from our country. But to visit someone's country, it's always good to be welcomed by the local Aboriginal people. I thank you, Uncle, for doing that. I've been part of Mungo for a long time, but I suppose not as long as some people like Jim and all his work colleagues that we've lost. And I was thinking of those work colleagues as we stood and we've done that mill and sign, especially our Barkinji elders, our Mari elders and our Yampa elders who fought the struggle to get Mungo to where it is today. But the next generation, but with this bidjara feather, that bidjara, we call wedge-tail our bidjara in Barkinji. It's a very powerful bird, and it's a totem of some round mob clan. And the gum leaves, we've got lots of uses for the gum tree. Even when we cook our emu in the hole, we fill him up with the gum leaves, and the smell of the gum leaves go right through him. That's another powerful tool we do. And you choose both of these, and to the Barkinji people it means a lot to us. But thank you for that. Yeah, but as I said, I've been involved with Mungo for a long time in management roles, and we definitely tried hard to actually get the Aboriginal people from these three tribal groups in permanent positions, not only as field officers, but in management roles, higher level roles like area managers, regional managers, that type of thing. But it didn't happen. But the next 50 years, if we could work towards that, the full hand back of those lands to the traditional owners who own the place. That's one of my dreams, to Aboriginal people walking and talking so we can hunt and gather, share our lands like we did years ago with all the other Aboriginal people that reside around the area.
I'd just like to thank Uncle Murray for welcoming us here on his land here. Just a little bit about me. I'm a qualified school teacher. I've been working at two schools in Willandra Primary and Chafey High School. I've also been in the Discovery Range at Mungo for about 8 years. But you see, one of the things that I know that we really do need at Mungo is to bring a lot of school children out there, because if you're going to learn about history, Mungo is the place to learn about history. And I take a lot of my school children out there, students out there, and they love it. And even the teachers love going out there. They love to explore and see what's out there. They know that Mungo is a very important place, not only for us, but for everybody. And I think that in the future we'll see quite a lot happening out there, and I hope it does. Yep.
Look, I come from a family of 11 children. My mother is Alice Kelly, and her husband, my father, was Alf Kelly, Wamba man. We were all reared and brought up in Balranald, and I suppose a lot of our cultural learning, come from our family, and Mungo's been one of them. Right from the outset, there was quite a lot of discussions went on around the remains of Mungo Lady that was taken away, and that was a real issue, discussion around their family table, And while we was brought up and lived in Melbourne and reared our children, we worked down here at different organisations. We always took our culture camps back home to country, to Balranald and out to Mungo. Over to Mildura and Robinvale, we always took them back, and showed them our country on culture camps and things like that. One of the things like education is the focus point today, and I think that we need to look at how we can put that in some sort of a package that's going to be there for the next 60,000 years, and the teaching of our younger generations, the children, the school children, those are the ones, that open to a lot of learning without much, and prejudice not having an impact on them. But and that's what that's what the dream is, and that comes from our elders too. We need our own keeping place out here, education centre for our families and our kids and students to come and learn and walk with us. And that was some of the words from the old girls, So thank you today, and that vision of education, it is the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, I'm Jason Kelly. So I'm Alice Kelly's grandson. When you're born a Kelly, and you come from Alice Kelly, there's Mungo's always been there, for my whole life. So it's been 51 years since Mungo Lady. She was returned back to the old girl. So I want to acknowledge first and foremost, Nan Alice Kelly, Auntie Alice Bugney, Auntie Tibby Breyer, Auntie Elsie Jones, those really strong key, matriarchs that paved this road for us that we find ourselves that we are still on. So we've sat at the table for a long time, many years. But the things of concerning is that I guess that the old girl's legacies was always coming up at the table at the meeting. So we, as Alice Kelly's descendants, we defined her legacy for all those at the table, and and what Nana wanted for that future direction. Nan was always talking about, if you want to keep our culture alive, you got to share it, you got to get it out there. I don't know how many thousands of students in the years that we had at the Mungo that the bus stopped at the front of Nan and Pop's house, and all these students just sitting on the front lawn, and Nan immersing them, telling them the stories, immersing them in our culture, telling them about our people. You see that it's not just Mungo. Just like recently we got a site down here in Moyja that's dated 120,000 years. So we our time that's been here, it goes back to that. That's the new minimum. We always know that we've always been from here, Mungo man, Mungo lady, into the 40,000, 45,000 years. For us, it's really disappointing. Mungo lady's come back home, but she still hasn't got that final resting place. It's been 2 years since Mungo man come back home. He still hasn't got that final resting place. The one thing that I can't really speak much more about that. But other than that, they will be returning to Mother Earth. But here we are. We've got Mungo that's been World Heritage listed site since 1981, a world identified sacred site. We talk about the free tribes that lived there, but for 120,000 years, we've got Australia is a continent made up of 250 different language groups, 400 different nations. But at the whole time, we lived under one Aboriginal law. And central to that law is our responsibility to each other and that caring and sharing. We always hear about the federal and state governments committed to self-determination. But what does self-determination look like? How are we going to realise our potential in reviving our culture, having song, dance, ceremonies out at Mungo? Nan always talked about not a culture centre, but an international education centre. It's time that we honour that. We give Mungo that world-class facility. We enable people to come and be part of that. Because it is, Nana described Mungo, for those who haven't been there and those who have, the one way that Nana articulated described it, it's a place where the breath of the greater spirit is still alive and tangible today. And you go there, it has that message for you. There's a draft letter going to Ken Wyatt, the Federal Minister for Indigenous Affairs, around getting support for this international culture centre. We want sections in there to highlight Muddy, Bark and Amber, but we want a section for all Aboriginal Australia. It talks about how we live for 120,000 plus years as a people. What's been the consequences for us as a nation since 1788 when Captain Cook come? And there needs to also be a place that highlights our culture, but there needs to be a place that also tells a story about the effects of, the different eras that we've gone through, the massacres, the protection era, the assimilation era. Now, even now that's ongoing with the high, deaths in custody. And it's not just, for us, it's for all Australians. It's not just for all Australians, it's for all of us globally as brothers and sisters. So we're looking for a place that, in the next 50 years, that we are, Mungo is Aboriginal owned and operated by the three Aboriginal tribes.
Started getting into these meetings and that, then now, land council and that, well, they discovered Mungo Man, they knew all about it. But Jim found Mungo Man and then the word got out. This is where they all formed then, and they all got together and said, yeah, they found Mungo Man. But they was waiting for the results to come back, how old it was, the age. So when they said the age, what it was, well, that's what everybody said, for he's the oldest fella in the world, we're going to all get together with the other mob. So this is how it's come about now today. But I first went to Mungo at the age of 19, actually. My uncle took me up there. They had contract for the national parks. So when Uncle John, my brother-in-law, introduced me to Mungo National Parks, well, we was rounding up goats. Goats was about $46 a head. And also coming across all our culture sites where Uncle John would say to me, if you go mustering up over there, watch out, there's a site up over there. So we'd be riding on the bikes, scouting right out around, searching and finding all these different stone tools and campfires and all lots of different, where people were staying, living there for thousands and thousands of years. Ended up getting a job there at the national parks because there was some work was advertised there, Discovery Ranger. So they advertised and we met Warren up there, about 15 of us, young fellas from in town. Some of us, we stuck it out. I think me and Ernest, we stuck it out there for about 14 years. Been Discovery, learning every day. And before that, though, when Uncle John took me up there, I slept in one room up there. And didgeridoo come in through the window and gave me a gift. Gave me a poem story song about Mungo Man and Mungo Lady. And ever since then I wrote the song and sang it, and yeah.
No go. Can everyone hear me? No go. Marandi. Ben. Yamagara Menju Koke. Yonari Steve Meredith. Nyampa Bilakialu. What I said was thank you to Unc and Ben for the opportunity to be here today. Kelly and Delapa, we come from dryland country, away from the rivers, but I'm sitting in rarefied atmosphere today. I'm not an elder. I'm actually a product and a result of my uncle's aspirations. I'm the regional manager for Heritage New South Wales. My team was tasked in 2014 to see if we could find a way to bring 106 of our ancestors home. I had a vested interest because I'm part of it. We're to the north of Willandra Lakes, Gallier, which is what they call Willandra Creek now, used to run into the lakes. The story from our end is that two clevermen chased a giant kangaroo and they couldn't catch him, and it was through the mud and the rain, and that's how the channel of the river was made. And he was caught further down that track by an old clever man down near Mungo, and what you see now is his Gullingar, his running guts, the lakes. And when our two old fellas got there, they were that annoyed that one man caught him that they sung him back to life, and the kangaroo got up and he went on to the Millawa, which is now the Murray River. This discussion has gone on all of my adult life, and what we found was we had to look at the reason why all the other attempts, the previous attempts, we didn't quite get the job done. So we went backwards through the timeline, back to the 80s. And I don't know how long I've got today, but I'll try and be quick. What we seen was that at some point, one of the groups that could facilitate this event left the table. And so we looked at the reasons why. Why did someone leave the table? And what we found was that we had the research community, we had the three traditional Aboriginal groups associated with the area, but they never had the opportunity or time or space to actually sit down and work out what each individual group's differences were. There's a term, Yinjamara, it's a Wiradjuri term, and it means when you go into complex discussions or negotiations, you have to approach it in a gentle manner, respectful, and that gives you then the opportunity to, what we say in Nyampa is Nyankara, talk straight. You have the opportunity to speak your mind, but in a safe environment, and so others can put forward their point of view. So what we always aim to do is you never leave the table until you have a resolution. You might not get your own way, but what you do is you work out a general consensus. So Rob Kelly was my senior team leader, and we sat down and we thought, okay, the best way to do this then is we'll invite all the universities, all the researchers, we'll invite all our uncles, aunties, and my brothers and sisters, and we'll lock them in a room for 2 days and we'll just let them rip on each other. Let them get it out of their system and then see if we can find some way to have a conversation, an ongoing conversation. So we thought, 2014, we thought, okay, we'll be ambitious. We will give ourselves until 2017 to get this job done, to at least get the old fellas out of that university and back on country. Nurumpa, we call that, our country, our world. And so that's what we done. So we got all the groups together, we locked them in a room, we let them go for it, and they did. They found themselves a channel where everybody could speak together, and it was safe, and you could oppose somebody's point of view. But we also worked on, okay, if that's the point of view, and we need, one group wants to be here, other groups want to do this, how do we bring everyone together to enable that to happen? So we ended up holding 3 forums. And along the way, some of the things were, Jim felt very remorseful about the event, and he did want to make sure those old fellas got home. And he felt remorseful that old Auntie Alice and Auntie Tibby and the 3 old ladies that led it back in the 80s weren't about anymore. So he wanted to do it before we lost any more of the old fellas, which I agreed. So through a lot of negotiation, a lot of discussion, we talked to National University, Australian National University, and we had a lot of support from them. It was just about the mechanics of how to make it happen. November 2017, as Ben mentioned in his introduction, was when we achieved that first stage of the return of those ancestors, including Mungo men. And then we had to work through now the universal cultural values of Willandra Lakes World Heritage Area with the Commonwealth around the approvals for the reburial of those remains. So there's still, I suppose, a few finer details to work through. One of them was around a cultural centre keeping place, the opportunities around further ongoing research. That led us into discussion. So we have 4 universities now that are collaborating on going forward with an on-site research station at Liaga, so an adaptive reuse of that old farmhouse into a research centre. And that was one of the sticking points that come out of the forums was, well, why do you have to take people and cultural material away from that area to study them? So that was part of the resolution. The solution was, well, why don't we have a facility out there? So now we're looking at if there is then an opportunity for a cultural centre or opportunities around further learning into the future, what does that look like and what's that discussion? I know, because I work for the New South Wales Government, that New South Wales doesn't have that kind of money. And it's not so much about the initial build, it's more around the ongoing maintenance and costs associated with that going forward in the future. So another one of the things that come out of those discussions were the AAG, which is the Aboriginal Advisory Group to Willandra Lakes World Heritage. They're working through a research protocol now with the universities so that research will be done on Aboriginal people's terms and they will get the outcomes that they need. So from that also is the opportunities around maybe scholarships and that. And for me, going forward in my life, would love to have the great honour to walk into a high school and talk to young people about opportunities going forward. I have the best job in the world, so I'd like other people to have that opportunity into the future.